Alexei Ivanov held the piece of bread in his trembling hands, feeling the weight of his own survival and the undeniable hunger etched in Anna Muller's face. She stood before him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of desperation and disbelief. The harsh winter wind whipped around them, carrying the echoes of distant gunfire and the stench of death. The ruins of the city, once filled with life, now bore witness to the cruelty of war, as shattered walls crumbled under the relentless assault of time and conflict. "Why are you doing this?" Anna's voice was barely a whisper, her German accent thick but filled with an urgency that struck Alexei's heart. "I'm the wife of the man who captured you. I should be your enemy." She glanced nervously around, as if fearing that her husband, Friedrich Muller, would appear at any moment to condemn her act of desperation. Alexei took a deep breath, forcing himself to meet her gaze. "Because hunger does not choose sides," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "In this wasteland, we are all just trying to survive." He broke the bread, the meager portion appearing almost sacramental against the backdrop of despair. "Take this," he urged, extending it toward her. "You need it more than I do." Anna hesitated, her eyes darting to the ground before returning to Alexei, a mix of gratitude and shame flickering across her features. "I don't deserve your kindness," she murmured, her hands trembling as she accepted the bread. "My husband, he does terrible things. I don't agree with him, but I am trapped in this life." Tears welled in her eyes, the weight of her situation crashing down on her. "Then let this be a moment of humanity amidst the rubble," Alexei said softly, feeling the tension ease slightly as she took a small bite, her expression shifting from despair to faint hope. "You are not your husband, Anna. This war has taken everything from us. Yet here we stand, two souls lost in the chaos." As the two shared this fragile connection over a mere piece of bread, the sound of boots crunching on the ice interrupted their moment. Friedrich Muller appeared, a formidable figure clad in his SS uniform, the insignia glinting ominously in the dim light. Alexei's heart raced, instinctively preparing for confrontation, but Anna stepped in front of him, her face a mask of fear and defiance. "Friedrich, please. He helped me," she pleaded, the tension thickening as she stood protectively before Alexei. "He's just a soldier trying to survive, like us. Can't you see that?" Muller's eyes narrowed, his voice cold and harsh as he regarded Alexei with contempt. "You dare to feed the enemy?" His tone was laced with disbelief and fury. "You're a traitor to your own kind." Alexei felt the accusation sting, yet he stood firm. "I am not your enemy, Muller," he said, his voice rising with conviction. "In war, we can choose to be human, or we can become monsters. I refuse to let this conflict turn me into one." For a moment, an uneasy silence enveloped them, the air crackling with tension. Anna's breathing quickened, caught between loyalty to her husband and compassion for the man who had shown her kindness. The stakes of their encounter loomed heavy, each moment potentially leading to violence or understanding. Friedrich stepped closer, his expression darkening. "You will regret this, Ivanov. The Reich does not tolerate weakness." With a sharp gesture, he pointed toward the ruins that surrounded them. "You are outnumbered. Remember that." Alexei swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of the situation tighten around him. He had chosen to share his bread, and now the consequences loomed larger than he could have ever anticipated. Would this act of kindness bring about retribution or spark a different path through the darkness? As the cold wind howled through the ruins, Alexei Ivanov's heart raced with uncertainty. He handed the piece of bread to Anna Muller, watching her trembling hands as she accepted the meager offering. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, a silent acknowledgement of the absurdity of their situation. The woman who was married to the man responsible for his captivity was now dependent on him for survival. The weight of the bread felt heavier than the rifle slung across his back. Anna's eyes brimmed with tears, a mixture of gratitude and despair. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant sounds of gunfire. Alexei's chest tightened at the sight of her gaunt form, her cheeks sunken in, and her clothes hanging loosely on her frail body. In that moment, he saw not just an enemy's wife, but a human being. Someone who had her own struggles, her own fears. "I didn't know how long I could survive," Anna confessed, breaking into a sob as she clutched the bread like a lifeline. "Friedrich, he hasn't returned. I fear for him, but I fear even more for ourselves." Alexei's mind raced. Friedrich Müller had been instrumental in the capture of many Soviet soldiers, including himself, and yet here stood his wife, a victim of the same war that had torn so many lives apart. "You have to be careful," Alexei warned, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. "If anyone sees us together, they won't hesitate to punish you, and me too." Anna nodded, understanding the gravity of their encounter. "I know the risks, but I cannot let you go without knowing your name. You've shown me kindness in a world that's gone mad." "A name won't change the war," Alexei replied tersely, yet he felt a flicker of connection. "But I am Alexei Ivanov. I am a soldier, just like your husband." Their brief moment of camaraderie was shattered by the sound of shouting in the distance. Alexei's instincts kicked in, urging him to flee, but he stood there, rooted to the spot, torn between self-preservation and the humanity that had flickered to life in the bitter cold. As he contemplated his next move, Anna grasped his arm, desperation etched across her face. "Please come back," she implored. "If you survive this hell, promise me you'll return to help me find food. I can't endure this alone." Her plea pierced through him, igniting a battle within Alexei. Could he risk returning? Would he be seen as a traitor for aiding an enemy's spouse? The cold reality of the war weighed heavily on his conscience. Yet the warmth of Anna's plea offered a glimmer of hope in the darkness. "I'll try," Alexei replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The promise felt like a vow, binding them in an unspoken agreement to look beyond the animosity taught by their respective nations. As the shadows lengthened over Stalingrad, the bond formed in those fleeting moments lingered in the air, leaving Alexei to question what loyalty truly meant. Could compassion carry the weight of such unforgiving circumstances? He could feel the fire of conflict raging not only on the battlefield but also deep within himself. Each soldier's decision rippled through the lives of countless others, and at that moment, Alexei Ivanov understood that even in war, humanity could find a way to shine through the darkest of times. With a heavy heart and an uncertain future ahead, Alexei turned to leave, casting one last glance at Anna Müller, the woman whose survival now wove into the fabric of his own fate. Would he be able to return to this fragile thread between them, or would the merciless tides of war pull them apart forever? The chilling silence of the Stalingrad winter enveloped Alexei Ivanov as he trudged through the debris, memories of the past months weighing heavily on his shoulders. He could still hear the echoes of gunfire, the cries of his comrades, and the laughter of the children in his hometown before the war tore everything apart. Each step was a reminder of the loss he had endured, yet it was the sight of Anna Müller that haunts him now, the very embodiment of the conflict he had been embroiled in. Anna, with her sunken cheeks and trembling hands, appeared like a ghost from a life Alexei never wanted to know. The stark contrast between their two worlds was humbling. Here she was, the wife of the man who had held Alexei captive, now reduced to a desperate woman pleading for a morsel of bread. The irony twisted within him as he recalled the moment Friedrich Müller had looked down on him, full of authority and arrogance, the hatred and fear palpable. Yet, confronting Anna brought forth a torrent of conflicting emotions: anger, sympathy, and something deeper that he had not expected to feel in these dire circumstances. In that moment, As he stood there with a piece of bread clutched tightly in his hand, Alexei thought about his comrades huddled in their makeshift barracks, their faces gaunt from hunger, their spirits worn down by the relentless cold and the despair surrounding them. Sharing his rations with Anna would mean one less meal for himself, perhaps even risking his own survival. But the haunting image of her pleading eyes pushed him forward. The thought of allowing a fellow human to starve, regardless of their allegiance, felt like a betrayal to the very essence of what he was fighting for: survival, dignity, and humanity itself. With a reluctant sigh, Alexei extended the bread towards Anna. Her eyes widened, disbelief mingling with hope as she trembled, reaching out to grasp the sustenance he offered. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. In that moment, Alexei saw not the enemy, nor the wife of an oppressor, but a fellow human being entangled in the same web of suffering that had ensnared him. "Why would you help me?" Anna asked, her voice thick with emotion. "I am the wife of the man who imprisoned you." Alexei struggled to find the words, feeling the weight of her question. "Because we are all suffering," he finally replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "War has made us enemies, but it does not erase our humanity." Anna nodded, tears spilling from her eyes, an acknowledgement of the shared pain that transcended their roles in this conflict. For a brief moment, the chasm between them seemed to narrow. Yet, the reality of their situation loomed over them like a shadow. Would Friedrich Müller discover this act of compassion? What consequences would it hold for both of them? Despite the heavy uncertainty, Alexei felt an ember of hope ignite within him. Each soldier's decision rippled through the lives of countless others, and at that moment, Alexei Ivanov understood that even in war, humanity could find a way to shine through the darkest of times. With a heavy heart and an uncertain future ahead, Alexei turned to leave, casting one last glance at Anna Müller, the woman whose survival now wove into the fabric of his own fate. Would he be able to return to this fragile thread between them, or would the merciless tides of war pull them apart forever? The path ahead was fraught with peril, yet in his heart, Alexei carried the hope that perhaps, against all odds, a flicker of compassion could blaze a trail through the icy wasteland of their war-torn lives. As the days passed, the frigid grasp of winter tightened around Stalingrad, where hope seemed to vanish beneath layers of snow and despair. Alexei Ivanov found himself grappling with the decision he had made, the momentary connection with Anna Müller echoing in his mind like a haunting melody. Each time hunger gnawed at his insides, the image of her emaciated form flickered before him, a reminder of their shared moment, an unexpected bond forged in the midst of chaos. Alexei's comrades often spoke about the enemy in harsh terms, painting the German soldiers as ruthless monsters devoid of humanity. Yet, Anna had shattered that preconception with her gaunt face and pleading eyes. Struggling with the shame of his own vulnerability, Alexei wrestled with the ramifications of his choice. He had chosen compassion over hatred, risking not only his life but also the lives of those around him. How could he explain to his fellow soldiers, men who had lost brothers, friends, and everything to the war, that he had shared a piece of bread with the enemy? Much to his surprise, Alexei found himself secretly returning to the ruins where he had met Anna, each visit cloaked in the cover of twilight. On those cold evenings, as shadows enveloped the streets, they spoke in hushed tones. Anna's voice, once edged with desperation, gradually transformed as she regained a semblance of strength through their clandestine meetings. In turn, Alexei learned about her life before the war, the laughter of children in their neighborhood, the warmth of family gatherings, and the dreams she once held dear. Each story she shared felt like a tiny rebellion against the cold, a testament to her enduring spirit. Yet, lurking in the shadows, the specter of Friedrich Müller cast a long shadow over their fragile bond. Anna spoke of her husband with a conflicted heart, love intertwined with fear, for she knew the man he had become. He was once different, Anna confessed one evening, her voice trembling as she recalled moments when their lives were not defined by uniforms and rifles. But war changes people, corrupts them. It's taken him from me. Alexei felt a strange mix of sorrow and sympathy for Anna. Her plight reflected the destructive nature of war that ensnared the innocent as effortlessly as it did the guilty. As the temperature dropped further, Alexei realized that Anna's condition was deteriorating. The once determined woman was now barely able to stand, her words often punctuated by coughs that echoed like the distant sounds of artillery. "I can't go on like this, Alexei," Anna whispered one night, her skeletal hands grasping his. "I fear I'll become another nameless victim of this war." A wave of despair washed over Alexei, and for a moment, he was paralyzed by the weight of her words. Could he afford to care for her when his own survival was tenuous at best? In a bold act of defiance, Alexei decided to gather supplies for Anna, risking exposure to enemy patrols and the consequences of being caught aiding the enemy. It was a decision laden with uncertainty, but he could not abandon the woman who had unwittingly become a beacon of humanity for him in this bleak reality. As he ventured out under the cover of darkness, his heart raced with the fear of being discovered, but also with the fervent hope that he could make a difference in Anna's life. He was not just saving her. He was reclaiming a piece of his own humanity, one shared moment of kindness at a time. Each step was a reminder that even in the depths of despair, compassion could breathe life into a war-torn world, illuminating the path ahead through the icy grip of conflict. As the remnants of the day settled into a bruised twilight, Alexei Ivanov felt the weight of the world pressing upon him. He stood in the midst of the wreckage, the shattered buildings of Stalingrad rising like tombstones around him, a silent tribute to the countless lives lost. The flickering fires from nearby skirmishes cast trembling shadows, mirroring the turmoil within his heart. His act of sharing bread with Anna Muller had sparked something deeper than mere compassion. It had ignited a conflict that transcended the battlefield. That evening, word spread through the ranks like wildfire, whispering of the Soviet soldier who had shared his dwindling rations with the wife of an SS officer. The soldiers of Alexei's unit, embittered by the relentless brutality of this war, were not ready to accept such an act of humanity. In their eyes, Anna was the enemy, and by helping her, Alexei had betrayed their cause. It wasn't long before he found himself standing before them, the tension in the air thick enough to slice through. "Alexei, what were you thinking?" Mikhail, one of the oldest soldiers in the unit, stepped forward, his brow furrowed with anger. "You're risking everything. That woman's husband is responsible for countless deaths, including our comrades. You should have left her to starve." Alexei felt an unfamiliar knot of defiance tightening in his chest. "She is not just a wife of an SS officer. She's a human being," he replied, his voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. "She has suffered just like us. In this chaos, have we lost our humanity?" Mikhail scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Humanity? This isn't a war of ideals. It's a fight for survival. If we let compassion dictate our actions, we might as well hang our uniforms and surrender." "You're playing with fire, Alexei." Before he could respond, Anna emerged from the shadows, her features stark against the dim light. There was a fragile strength in her posture, a quiet resolve that drew both the soldiers' ire and their curiosity. She held her head high, though the hollow cheeks and sunken eyes betrayed her suffering. "I did not ask for his help," she said, her voice steady yet fragile. "But I accepted it. I couldn't turn away from the kindness offered when I am bound to survive." A murmur rippled through the soldiers, and Alexei seized the moment, stepping closer. "This woman is here not as an enemy, but as someone caught in the same storm. Can we not see through the uniforms and the guns to the reality of our shared existence? In a war that dehumanizes us all, Shouldn't we cling to our humanity? Mikhail's face turned from anger to contemplation, the hardened lines softening momentarily. But the others were not so easily swayed. You're risking our lives for a woman who is tied to those who killed our brothers. Another soldier shouted, voice rising in fervor. Enough! Anna interjected, her tone sharp, cutting through the rising tensions like a blade. I am not here to make excuses for my husband's actions. I am here because I am hungry, desperate, and scared. But I also see the fear in your eyes. We are not so different. A war has taken everything from us. Her words hung in the air, a fragile bridge over the chasm of enmity. Alexei felt the atmosphere shift, the bitter hostility slightly giving way to something more profound. A moment of understanding, however transient. Without another word, he moved closer to Anna, standing beside her as a silent act of solidarity. The soldiers watched, their breaths held, as the shadows of war loomed large. But for a moment, hope flickered amidst the darkness. In that fleeting moment, Alexei Ivanov realized he had forged a bond with Anna Muller that transcended the brutal realities of war. This unexpected confrontation had opened a door to a different kind of resistance, one that fought against the desolation of the human spirit. As he looked into Anna's weary eyes, he understood that their shared struggle was a testament not only to survival, but to a deeper connection in a world that had become painfully divided. With a newfound determination, Alexei prepared to face the challenges ahead, knowing that his choice to stand with Anna was a decision steeped in the essence of hope, one that could pave the way toward healing, even amidst the ruins of their war-torn lives. As he looked into Anna's weary eyes, he understood that their shared struggle was a testament not only to survival, but to a deeper connection in a world that had become painfully divided. The air around them crackled with tension, not just from the war that raged on outside, but from the unspoken bond that was forming between a soldier and the wife of the man who had imprisoned him. In that moment, Alexei Ivanov made a decision that could alter the course of their lives forever. In the immediate aftermath of their encounter, Alexei and Anna found themselves navigating a precarious existence. Alexei shared what little food he had left with Anna, and in turn, she offered him information about the German forces in the area. Their clandestine meetings became a lifeline, a source of strength in a city that was rapidly disintegrating under the weight of war. Anna's husband, Friedrich Muller, continued to patrol the streets, unaware of the quiet rebellion unfolding under his roof. As days turned into weeks, Alexei's willingness to share not only bread but also stories and laughter with Anna forged a connection that transcended the barriers of nationality and conflict. They spoke of their dreams and hopes for a future free from the chains of war. Anna had once dreamed of becoming a teacher, and Alexei of returning to his family in the countryside. Each shared moment was a reminder that they were still human, capable of kindness, even in the most inhumane of circumstances. However, the harsh realities of war were never far behind. Over the next few weeks, as the siege tightened around Stalingrad, rumors began to swirl within the ranks of German soldiers about a possible betrayal. Friedrich's suspicions grew, and he started to notice the shifts in Anna's demeanor. She became more withdrawn, her eyes haunted by the weight of the secret she carried, a secret that could cost Alexei his life. One fateful night, as Alexei and Anna huddled in the shadow of a crumbling building, Friedrich stormed in, his face a mask of fury. He had received word that a Soviet soldier was evading capture, stealing supplies. The air was thick with tension as he accused Anna of colluding with the enemy. In that heart-stopping moment, Anna found her voice and courage. She stepped forward, forging a path of truth amidst the chaos. "I'm not afraid of your threats," she exclaimed. "This soldier has shown me humanity in a world stripped of it. You've taken so much from us, Friedrich, and I refuse to let you take more." Friedrich's eyes narrowed, the betrayal slicing through him like a dagger. The confrontation escalated, and Alexei knew he had only moments to act. With no time to think, he stepped between Anna and her husband, ready to take the full brunt of Friedrich's wrath. "You will not harm her," Alexei declared, his voice steady but laced with desperation. "We are not enemies. We are two souls trapped in a nightmare." In that moment of self-sacrifice, Alexei was prepared to face the consequences, knowing that he had defended not just Anna but the very essence of humanity that war sought to extinguish. The confrontation erupted, but amidst the chaos, Anna found the strength to escape with Alexei into the darkened streets, their hearts pounding, united by their resolve to survive. In the medium term, they found refuge in a small enclave of resistance fighters, where they laid low, sharing their stories with others who had suffered the ravages of war. Over several months, they fought alongside those who believed in the possibility of a different future, forging a community born out of resilience and solidarity. Their bond deepened, transforming into a partnership forged in fire and hope. Years later, in the aftermath of the war, Alexei and Anna stood together in a rebuilt Stalingrad, a city that had risen from the ashes of battle. They looked back on their journey, the struggles they had faced, and the love they had found in the unlikeliest of circumstances. Their personal change was profound. They had not only survived the war, but had also transformed their pain into a mission of advocacy for peace and reconciliation. They became symbols of the human spirit's capacity for compassion, determined to ensure that the lessons learned amidst the rubble would never be forgotten. What did you think? Comment and click hype.